space-age technology, brute force, speeds of up to 270 kilometers per hour. This is a machine that can take you to the edge. This is pedal power. The bicycle is the most popular vehicle in the world. Over 1 billion people ride them. Millions race them.
I think the bicycle's the most efficient, beautiful thing that's ever been created.
It harnesses human power like no other machine.
You are the engine, and I think it gives a certain sense of freedom.
For the brave-hearted, it can even defy gravity.
You know, it's an extension of your body, so your bike is everything. You have to really believe in it.
Modern bicycles benefit from 200 years of research and development. It's the competition for speed that has propelled technology forward. Early racers had to deal with height as well as speed. And like all athletes, cyclists had to be completely dedicated.
I'm a non-smoker and teetotaler. I go to bed early and there's no monkey business.
In the early 1900s, cycle racing attracted thousands to specially constructed wooden tracks called velodromes.
You went to a baseball game when all the seats at the velodrome were sold out. Cycling was the hot sport of that era.
Long-distance road races tested stamina as well as speed. Cyclists had to harness their power, whatever the terrain. To make maximum use of their pedaling rate, gears were invented. Today, the Tour de France is the world's most famous road race. This 4,800-kilometer test of human endurance has been challenging cyclists since 1903. Each team consists of 9 riders, 1 star rider and 8 backup men. The teams race for 7 hours a day, for 21 days. Their machines have to be extremely light and incredibly strong.
For the Tour de France athlete, the bicycle's their life. The frame is the foundation for the bicycle. It needs to be sturdy, it needs to be reliable, it needs to be light. You've got the mountain stages where they're screaming down the mountains at 50, 60 miles an hour plus. They're hoping that their bike's going to hold up, and you got to lay it all on the line. And it can be life or death on some of those descents.
One of the leading teams is sponsored by the US Postal Service. Tyler Hamilton is a backup rider on the team.
It's just such an epic race. I think it's the hardest sporting event in the world. I can't imagine pushing your body any harder than the cyclists in the Tour.
It's a hazardous race. 200 start, but only 140 will make it to the finish.
Being in the group of riders can be scary at times. In the Tour de France, it's almost 200 riders. If one rider goes down in a crash, you can take down up to 20 or 30 riders because it's like a domino effect. And I definitely got a little bit of a tattoo this summer from the Tour.
Tyler Hamilton brings them through in first place.
This is a highly tactical sport. Hamilton's role is not to win, but to create a windshield for Lance Armstrong, the team's key rider.
Yeah, on our team, Lance Armstrong is our protected rider, and we ride in front of him to help give him a draft, which probably saves about 25% of his energy. And we get him to the most critical part of the race, and then it's up to him.
Each rider must conserve as much energy as possible. Hamilton uses a wind tunnel at MIT in Boston to find the position with the least air resistance. Sports scientists record his performance and his drag coefficient in different riding positions.
Aerodynamics are important to a Tour de France cyclist because you want to conserve as much energy as possible into pushing the bike forward. Depending on the efficiency of the rider and their position and the efficiency of the equipment they use, it could be between 70 to 95% of their power is used just to overcome wind.
The design of Hamilton's bike is also important. Made of carbon fibre, it has 18 gears and 70-centimetre wheels. Ultra-thin tyres are pumped to 3 kilos per square centimetre, 3 times more pressure than the average car tyre, to keep friction to a minimum. These bikes weigh only 10 kilos, but they cost $3,000.
The bike is super important in the Tour de France. We spend so much time on the bike that, yeah, you feel like you're born with the bike. You know, after the Tour de France, when you're off your bike, you feel like something's missing.
With so many teams and riders, gaining an edge is key.
When you're riding in the most difficult stages of the Tour de France, you can't show your pain. You can't show the suffering you're undergoing because there's a psychological component to this. If your opponent sees that you're suffering, that you're weakening up, they're going to seize that opportunity and they're going to attack. And that could be the difference between winning and losing the race.
In 1999, Lance Armstrong, the star of the US Postal Team, won the Tour de France. It was a great triumph, made even more amazing by the fact that Armstrong had nearly died from cancer a few years earlier. But the victory belonged to the whole team.
Having Lance win the Tour de France this summer was an amazing feeling. I was just glad to be a part of it. Being able to ride as a professional and to ride in the Tour de France is a dream come true.
The secret of maximum power in cycling lies in the pedaling action. At the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, physiologists are using this cyclist to measure the forces applied to each pedal.
We can bring the athlete in and put them on an ergometer or stationary bicycle, and because of electrodes and the technology that we have, we can look at how they're applying force, where the most force is being applied, and if it's being applied equally amongst both legs.
They've discovered the key to good cycling is a simple one. Don't let your foot rest on the way up. Most athletes are good at the downstroke, but don't always pull up on the upstroke. This test helps them to learn the perfect action. The motion is shown on a computer. Arrows indicate where force is being applied. This is an efficient pedaling action because the cyclist is putting no weight on the pedal on the upstroke. To pedal hard for hundreds of kilometers needs not only good technique, but huge amounts of energy. Enormous lung capacity is essential to draw in enough oxygen to fuel the muscles. Professional cyclists are twice as efficient as normal people at transferring oxygen to the muscles. In Colorado Springs, scientists carefully measure oxygen intake.
If you think in terms of a common household item that you'll see, the 2-liter soda bottle that you can get at a grocery store, they're ventilating 50 to 100 of those every minute just to get in that amount of oxygen that they need.
For any cyclist, the ultimate test of pure performance is racing on the track. Unlike road bikes, these streamlined machines have no gears and no brakes. Their thin tyres have no tread. This is track cycling. Riders adopt low positions to reduce air resistance, but strict rules dictate what position they can use. Super cyclist Chris Boardman is one of the fastest men in the world. He's won many trophies, including an Olympic gold medal.
The reason that I'm in cycling at all is because I wouldn't say I want to win. I would say that I need to win just to be normal. I don't think it's a particularly healthy way to be, but it's been rather effective over the years.
Chris Boardman has been competing since the age of 13.
I think the bicycle is a unique machine because it allows a tremendous amount of speed to be gained simply by the use of the human body. It's that you are the engine, and I think it gives a certain sense of freedom, probably as close as you're going to get to flying without actually doing so.
The shape of his bike and his posture determine Boardman's aerodynamic efficiency.
On the track, aerodynamics is hugely important. The position of the rider being the most important point of all, because the rider is over 80% of the frontal area. I don't generate huge amounts of power, but I do have the ability to make myself into, for want of a better description, a very aerodynamic shape. I can get a lot out of my engine. It's like a car having a very small engine, but also having a very small drag coefficient. So the power to drag ratio is quite high.
Boardman is racing here in the green shorts. The design of his bike allows him to crouch down into a special aerodynamic position, now outlawed. The last 2 decades have seen some radical experiments in rider position. It started with Boardman's aero bike, which took the rider lower than any other bike at the time. After wind tunnel tests showed it to be far more aerodynamic, Boardman rode this bike to victory in the 1992 Olympics. A year later, Scottish cyclist Graham O'Brien invented the even more radical aerodynamic tuck. The sport's governing body, the UCI, didn't like the tuck, even though it helped O'Brien break the 1-hour track world record in 1993.
The position itself was pushed right to the edge of the rules, with the arms completely tucked up underneath the chest, so a headless chicken type position was assumed. Very ungainly and not a lot of fun to look at, but extremely effective.
The UCI declared the tuck dangerous and banned it from the track. But O'Brien responded with the Superman position.
The Superman position was extremely efficient because the arms, as you can tell by the name, were pretty much straight out in front of you. The only thing that was presented to the air was the fist of the rider. The traditionalist in me thought it looked stupid, frankly.
But Boardman was forced to adopt the Superman position when O'Brien began breaking his records. Then, with speeds approaching 45 kilometers per hour, Boardman won his titles back. Finally, the Superman position was also banned. But the bicycle can go much, much faster. To do that, you need a vast level area, like the Bonneville Salt Flats in America. When John Howard broke the world cycling land speed record, it was the realization of a lifelong dream.
Vision for me started when I was 10 years old, and I never lost it. And the whole process was sort of a culmination of everything that I had learned up to that point about riding a bicycle.
In the 1930s, the cycling land speed record was 30 kilometers per hour. By 1972, it had risen to 225 kilometers per hour. In 1986, Howard and his team prepared to make a record attempt at Bonneville. As a professional cyclist, Howard was in peak condition. Years of preparation had left nothing to chance.
All the practice that I had done prior to that gave me a clear handle on what I needed to do. Everything had to be perfect. All of the ingredients had to be in order to break the record.
To help him become the fastest self-propelled man on Earth, Howard was initially pulled behind a dragster. Once up to speed, he let go of the car and pedaled in its draft.
We are pulled up to some speed. Usually it's 70, 80 miles an hour because it takes hours to get the bike up to speed.
After release, Howard had to pedal himself from 120 kilometers per hour to over 225.
While it's a huge cardiovascular effort to do it, the closer you can stay to the car, the faster you're going to go. It was one of the highlights of my career that we successfully made it happen.
Howard's record of 245 kilometers per hour stood for nearly 10 years.
To go 152 some odd miles an hour under my own power felt tremendously exhilarating and yet very terrifying.
The record proved incredibly difficult to break. As Fred Rumpelberg, the first challenger, was to find out in 1993. He was riding a bike that John Howard had helped him build, with an improved gearing system. His first attempt ended in disaster. Rumpelberg had slipped out of the safety of the car's draft.
Fred Rumpelberg crashed at 140 miles an hour and was nearly killed. It took him another 3 years to recover before he finally came back, still walks with a limp, but he broke the record a couple of years ago.
What is it?
A decade after Howard set the record, Rumpelberg pedaled himself to a death-defying 267 kilometers per hour. This is the fastest a bike has ever gone under human power.
Champion, come on. Yeah, the champion.
But you don't have to be fast to be dangerous. In the early 1980s, cyclists began to venture into uncharted terrain. The technology they demanded led to a whole new generation of bikes. For mountain bikers, the challenges of road and track were not enough. For rough terrain, they needed stronger, tougher bikes with front-wheel suspension. Soon they added rear-wheel suspension and disc brakes to handle the perilous slopes. These are downhill mountain bikes. They represent the cutting edge of bicycle technology.
The suspension technology alone is mind-boggling. They're very sophisticated little bicycles now, mimicking motorcycles to some degree without the motors.
Downhill mountain biking is racing against the clock. Aerodynamics have little place here. Wide, heavy-duty tires and strong frames are far more important. racing down almost vertical slopes at up to 90 kilometers per hour is perilous. Riders risk injuries from broken collarbones to fractured skulls. "28-year-old Brian Lopes is a world champion.
It's definitely risky. I mean, every time you get out on the bike, you're taking a risk. And obviously, the faster you go, the more risk is involved. So it's just a matter of getting up there and going for it and see what happens. It's a great feeling going 60. I mean, you just want to go faster and faster. You get really comfortable going that speed, and you just want more of it.
Downhill mountain bikes are custom built at a cost of up to $20,000.
The technology of the bike is important. It allows you to go through rough terrain much faster than you'd ever be able to go through it with a normal bike, without suspension, without disc brakes, without these big tires that grip the surface so well. Technology can definitely make you win or lose a race.
During a race, downhill mountain bikes withstand forces of up to 5 Gs. That's the same as half a ton pushing down on them. Engineers design these bikes on computers to make sure the frames can easily cope with the stresses and strains. They identify points of weakness and then reinforce them. The frames are cut by laser from aircraft aluminium. Each part of the bike has to be tested. The handlebars, which take much of the force of landing, and the suspension, which absorbs the impact.
A typical bike is designed to run more or less on flat terrain, but the downhill bike is designed as if you're pointing the bike down the hill, so all the angles are sloped back as if the bike's always going to be pointed down the hill. So the bike actually doesn't ride uphill good at all. It's designed just to go down.
But there are some people who can make these bikes go twice as fast. Bike designer Jan Kapil is about to race his mountain bike down an extremely steep ski slope.
Since I design and build downhill racing bikes, I always thought it would be a great opportunity to do some further research on the construction of bicycles.
By using a fast ski run, ice bikers can ride their bikes to the absolute limit. The course is so steep, there's no point in pedaling. Kapil pushes his bike to the max. When he brakes, the discs get so hot, he has to cool them down with snow.
I think it's absolutely the most fun thing that you can do on a bicycle. Being able to go over 100 miles an hour, it's an absolute blast to do. It's just great.
At maximum speed, Kapil crashes through the 160 kilometers per hour barrier.
I did 107 miles an hour and I had the absolutely best run of my life, and it's the fastest I've ever gone.
This man is alone when he does his speed runs. But when hundreds of bikers race down a ski slope, the result can be mayhem. July 1999. 700 cyclists are preparing to fling themselves down a 3,000-meter high French Alp.
I come here because I want to win the most extreme bicycle race in the world.
These mountain bikes and their riders will be pushed to the limit in this terrifying race. It took most contestants 3 hours of grueling riding to make it down the 22-kilometer run. And they fell over a lot. The winner made it in just under 1 hour. Biking on snow and ice is certainly dangerous, but the most deadly surface of all is man-made. The fastest way to move important packages around Manhattan is by bicycle. An army of 10,000 messengers battles against time and traffic to keep big business running. Exorbitant insurance premiums rule out motorcycles, so pedal power is the only way.
To get around the city, the fastest way is by bike. It's not the safest way, but it is the fastest way.
Dave Bonilla is a courier coordinator. He organizes deliveries.
99 ho, 99 ho. Pick up at 775 Wash Industrial, heading up to 1271 6th Avenue, time of life.
Ho DePalm is his main man. At 27, Ho has spent 7 years battling with Manhattan's traffic. He can race down a city block in seconds. Out on the front line, he spends 10 hours a day on his bike. It's important to know which vehicles are the worst hazard.
The 3 worst plates are yellow cabs, people from New Jersey, and diplomats. You got to stay away from those 3 because they have no sense when they drive. But you know what I'm talking about.
Ho uses a bike with handlebars no wider than his shoulders, so he can easily weave through the traffic. It has a strong frame and wide tires to deal with the city's uneven streets. This job requires the balance of an acrobat and the power of a professional racer.
The bike is, I would say, about 10% of the job, because if the person on the bike cannot push it, cannot pedal it, cannot steer it, cannot ride it, the bike is no good. It just hangs on the wall. If you don't love the bike, you can't even think about doing this job. You're pedaling, your heart is racing, you're flying, you got split seconds to make these decisions about these moves or what's going on around you. You're worrying about everybody behind you and on the side of you, and you're hearing for tires and for cars running up on you. You might have to put your hand on the car. You might have to knock on a window. You might have to yell at somebody, and you're doing this at 30 miles per hour flying up 6th Avenue. It's, one head, one mind, one focus. You gotta go. If you don't go, you're a dead man out here. And plenty of people have died for stupid little mistakes out here.
Eventually, I'm gonna have to give this up. You get scared when you go down and you break something, or you get scared if you see another fellow messenger lying dead under a sheet, it tends to mess with your psyche.
The package is delivered, and Ho lives to face another day. Conventional upright bicycles have been in use for more than 100 years, but they don't have to be this shape. Since the 1930s, cyclists have been experimenting with lying down to reduce air resistance and improve pedal power. These bikes are called recumbents. The mechanical design is the same as for an upright bike. It's the configuration that's different. Jeffrey Caswell has designed a recumbent bike to go fast. Very fast.
I built something as low as possible to the ground because I believe that the lower you go, the faster you go. I guess I have the need for speed. I named this bike the luge because it's like a luge going downhill. For me, it's quite exhilarating, and I guess I live my life on the edge a little bit, and I rather enjoy it. It's better than sitting in my rocking chair.
Recumbent bikes can go even faster when covered in a streamlined shell. Reduced air turbulence helps these amateur cyclists go 30 kilometers per hour faster than a professional upright racer.
Recumbents don't present the blockage in terms of wind flow. There's nothing to catch air. If you can reduce the profile and make something very thin, it's going to go fast. That's all there is to it.
There's a prize of $25,000 offered to the first team that can pedal a bike over 120 kilometers per hour on a flat highway. A leading contender for the prize is the Varna bike team from Canada. The bike's designer is a sculptor by trade. He's hoping his artistic design will bring victory.
Yeah, I got it.
This bike is built to fit only one man, Sam Whittingham, the pilot.
Thousands of years of evolution have really influenced the design of this bike. You can learn a lot from nature, and that's certainly where the designer got his ideas from, rather than a lot of, techie computer stuff.
The Varna bike is low-lying, just 45 centimeters off the ground. It has 5 gears and weighs around 27 kilos.
What makes this bike extreme is the fact that you can go that bloody fast under your own steam. There's nothing quite like it. Sometimes I'll think, oh, wow, to go that fast, and it's just me. There's nothing else helping me. There's no wind, there's no motor, nothing, just me. That's kind of neat.
Practicing for his record attempt, Sam's taken the Varna bike to 90 kilometers per hour on a flat road and over 120 down a gentle slope. But riding it down a steep slope could be deadly.
If you were to run this bike down any kind of steep hill, it'd be an absolute suicide run. You'd probably top out at just over 200 miles an hour, and that would probably be the last run I ever took.
Another contender for the $25,000 prize is Matt Weaver. Matt and his father believe they could break the 120 kilometer per hour barrier with their machine, the Virtual Edge.
The idea of being able to go faster than the national speed limits, the laws of the land, with your legs alone is very exciting.
This complex bicycle will be encased in an aerodynamic pod. Today, father and son are road testing the technology of the Virtual Edge.
And this bicycle is very much part human body and then part another basic fundamental element, the wheel, and put them together and see what they can do.
The bike has 4 gears and is extremely light, just 15 kilos.
suddenly you notice things are starting to vibrate a little more and things are zipping by you faster. It's like being in an airplane. You actually bank through the turns. It's like flying a fighter jet as low as you dare go. Pretty soon you go, wow, and you feel like Superman.
But will Weaver's Virtual Edge beat Whittingham's Varna bike?
Eventually, it's definitely possible to go 75 miles an hour. At this point, technology is probably not quite there. A few refinements here and there, a little more training on my part. But it's, one day, all records will fall, and that one's coming up.
The design of these bikes allows the riders great speed, but there's one fundamental problem.
Stopping is a completely different issue. Without help, I can't stop. I'll just flop over like a dead fish on the side of the road.
The quest for speed isn't everything. Over the years, bike designers have experimented with other extremes. As well as riding on water, many inventors have wanted to make their bicycles fly. Some bikes have even been fitted with rockets. But the ignition system was somewhat primitive. It seemed that human-powered flight would never happen. But then, in 1979, a team of British scientists built a super light plane with a vast wingspan. Pilot Brian Allen hoped to cycle the Gossamer Albatross across the 34-kilometre stretch of sea that divides England from France. It took all his energy just to get airborne. Then there was no chance of a rest until landfall. A short lapse of pedal power would have sent his plane crashing into the sea. Brian's body generated 0.3 horsepower, enough to fly the plane at 17 kilometers per hour. After almost 3 hours of constant pedaling, he made it, landing on a French beach. Designers are experimenting with other human-powered planes, trying to fly their machines more than 160 kilometers. This is the Velair. It's the brainchild of Pierre Frank, who uses a recumbent bicycle rather than an upright one to power this plane.
I'm sitting in a recumbent seat, pedaling like hell. With those pedals, I drive a chain and a drive shaft and the propeller in the back. And this propeller pushes the plane. And I fly like the same speed, a little bit faster than a bicycle.
But some cyclists can make their bikes fly even without wings. Stuntmen have been using bicycles to get their kicks since the machine was first invented. These are modern-day stunt riders. They use BMX bikes to soar over 5 meters above the ground. To perform feats like these, BMX stunt riders need bikes that are simple and strong. There's no suspension, no gears, and only one brake. It's the rider that makes the difference.
I look at BMX riders and the tremendous tricks that they do as very athletic entertainment. I applaud them. I think they are fantastic.
20 years ago, BMX stunt riding was just a fad. Today, it's grown into an extreme sport. There are 4 elements. Vert riding, in specially designed ramp parks. Street riding, in the urban landscape. Dirt riding's the most popular, using dirt bumps to gain height. Then there's flat landing, the most technical of the 4 classes. One little mistake, and you're in a lot of trouble.
The scary part about bikes is you're up there in the air with all this metal, all these spinning parts and stuff. So you pretty much just have to take the slam. You're straddling something and you just get tangled up, and that's a downfall.
Matt Hoffman is a legend in his own time. He's dominated the sport of stunt riding and heavily influenced BMX bike design.
You have to be riding it to understand why you need this angle, tweak this way or whatever. I thought, man, if I want it to be done right, then I need to do it myself, and that's what I ended up doing.
Today, Matt owns a successful company that manufactures BMX bikes. His favorite part of the job is testing the products. He doesn't pedal. He uses his upper body to pump himself up to 55 kilometers per hour. The speed he needs to get airborne. Over the years, Matt Hoffman has lost count of the number of times he's wiped out.
I'm accident prone. I've had a lot of injuries. I've had 14 operations, but I would probably have 14 operations if I was a chess player. I'm just clumsy.
Hoffman wanted to jump up to 10 meters. He couldn't build a ramp high enough, so he used a motorbike to tow him up to speed. Hoffman's latest stunt has taken him to the Norwegian fjords. He's preparing to ride his BMX off a 1,000-meter high, sheer cliff. Once parted from his bike, Hoffman pulls the ripcord on his parachute.
I have certain, rules I live by, and then what happens in those rules, so be it, but it's always follow my heart and follow, my vision and just see where it takes me.
Although it's nearly 200 years old, the bicycle remains the world's best-loved machine.
It wasn't a good invention, it was a great invention, and it's still with us today.
It's such a simple design, why mess with it?
One human body, one human mind, the power of your muscles, put them together and see what they can do.
Yeah, to be able to just go fast under your own steam is, what it's all about.